Hey, it's been a while. It's getting cold. Okay, so today's video is going to be sort of a general project update video across multiple projects, kind of like how we do every couple of months. Don't worry, there will be a brand new Rebuilding Smackdown episode in December and something special coming in November. But first, I'm going to address something that people have been asking me for the past month, which is, what did you think about WWE Battlegrounds? And in short, I think it's good, but I will preference to say that this game was never going to be for me because I wasn't even too big a fan of All Stars. I liked it and understood what it was for, who it was for, and thought it was fun for what it was, as in a really good multiplayer, on the couch kind of great experience with friends. That said, one thing did disappoint me out the gate, and that is how much online connectivity is required to enjoy the full experience of the game. You can't even enter modes like Edit a Wrestler without online activity. Now, this may have been rectified via a patch, however, you'd still need to be online to receive said patch. And there are plenty of people without internet in plenty of countries that enjoy WWE games, and there are people even in the US that don't necessarily have a steady internet connection to download patches and updates or stay online at all times, so it makes the game a lot more bare bones than if you have online connectivity. Probably the most fun thing about the game to me is the game's campaign/story mode. The story itself is pretty wild, with Steve Austin hired to recruit a whole bunch of new talent for WWE to beating Brock Lesnar and him returning to the depths of the swamp. That said, I did experience quite a few bugs during multi-man matches, such as initiating a grapple or elimination during a Royal Rumble match, and the game not necessarily registering. Overall, I don't have too much to say on it. This is why I didn't do a review. The game seems quite heavy on microtransactions, and while I'm aware that there's a good chunk of currency that can be earned through the in-game modes, it just feels a little like they want you to just pay and get it over with, rather than you having fun with the game. Overall though, it's fine if you're enjoying it, and I hope you guys are. It's not really the game for me because it isn't wrestling. It's just, over the top, high action, and just crazy nonsense, which is great if you enjoy that. The second I locked up with someone, I wanted to go from a multitude of options into a headlock or a test of strength or Irish whip someone into the ropes and then do an arm drag and then put them into a submission. I'm more a wrestler's wrestler rather than care for something like Battlegrounds. But for the audience that have been craving for another game similar and in the same vein of WWE All Stars, WWE Battlegrounds, I think, scratches that itch. You tell me. I think it does. I think it's a pretty serviceable game, and at least you have something like that if you're into modern WWE to occupy yourself with until the inevitable 2K22 next year. Alright, now just a quick reminder that WWE Smackdown vs. Raw, the Definitive Edition version 1, Divas version, is now out. This will be up for about 3 months or so before we move to version 2, in which, yes, we'll have Brock Lesnar and Rikishi and the alternate Diva attires such as Molly Holly with the shaved head and others that were previewed in the latest Smackdown vs. Raw update, as well as the different John Cena entrance and extra moves. That isn't the only thing though. I've actually got a earlier build than that, which has a few more extras. It's very minor, but one thing that I think all you guys will be super happy to have. So that will be in the next Smackdown vs. Raw update video, and then all that stuff will be in Smackdown vs. Raw version 2. Also currently up for the final time is Smackdown Here Comes the Pain version 10.5. And remember, if you want that, you've got about a month left to get it, as we'll be moving on in around January, February time to version 11. Which will contain the commentary. Yes, I've almost finished it and implemented it entirely. There will be 2 versions, so there will be a version 11 with all the extra stars and new attires and things that you've come to expect from a Definitive Edition. But there will also be a sort of pure Smackdown Here Comes the Pain, which is basically just the base game, so how it was released, with the commentary intact, so that way all the legends and all the current superstars have the commentary, so it's kind of like just a complete version of what should have shipped. So you can look for both of those in early 2021, If you need Here Comes the Pain version 10.5, then you've got about another 6 or so weeks to get it. So yeah, grab that if you need it. Now for an update on SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. I was initially going to preview SmackDown Shut Your Mouth version 2 this month. However, I did notify everyone on Patreon that I was shipped an extremely early build of SmackDown Shut Your Mouth out of the blue in the last couple of weeks. Actually, it's probably about a month since I made that post, so yeah, about a month. And as far as I can tell, that is the earliest build ever, and at the moment I'm going through the season mode script, and while season mode doesn't necessarily work properly at all, in fact, there's cutscenes, and the dialogue script for the season is wildly different in some story mode scenarios. Some characters aren't even in the same positions as they are in the final game. So instead of Shawn Michaels being somewhere, the intent for Mick Foley is somewhere, and Shane McMahon is somewhere. And you can tell now sort of how we suspected initially the game was going to be, and then was changed. There's now more definitive proof that that was how that was. So I'm currently capping footage of those cutscenes and going to make a new video for SmackDown Shut Your Mouth version 2 and try and get as much of that stuff in version 2 to go along with that release. Of course, version 2 will feature the 2001-2002 attires, and version 3 will be 2002 to 2003 attires and titles and arenas and whatnot. But we'll just show it in a video. No point me explaining. Point is that's gonna come very shortly. I'm just making the video, and then when that's done, we'll go into full preview mode on that. Also, if you haven't got SmackDown Shut Your Mouth version 1, this is the last month to grab that, because then that's going to be discontinued too. So if you want it, grab it now, because then we're just going hard into version 2. Okay, now on to an update for SmackDown vs. Raw 2006's Definitive Edition. So as you may know, SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 had a few bugs. Majority of them are now fixed and are going to be pushed out in the next version update, which should be in the next couple of weeks. Also, there is the Fall DLC attire update, and I'm going to start previewing that probably in about a week or two. So you guys will get to see. Maybe I don't know if it'll be in the vein of a countdown, because we're currently doing a countdown on Patreon anyway for the next Definitive Edition release, which we'll be releasing at Christmas. So instead of that, we'll probably do just a big maybe weekend attire post of everything that's going to be in that new edition. Loads of fun stuff, loads of WrestleMania 21 attires, which were heavily requested, and I'd already done them. So yeah, loads of extra pay-per-view attires, stuff that unfortunately, just due to not being able to have more than 2 attires on that game, got left. And I'd made several for so many people, such as Randy Orton, Chris Benoit, Dave Bautista, Edge, and so on and so forth. So yeah, loads of new attires for those guys. And then shortly after that update, we'll have another update with the remaining 5 characters. So some Divas, Lesnar, and Maven. Alright, let's talk Day of Reckoning 1. Now, recently on Patreon, I held a poll as to which Definitive Edition episode would you want next. Would you want Day of Reckoning, or would you want SmackDown vs. Raw 2007? SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 actually trumped Day of Reckoning with, I think, 75% or a bit more of the vote currently. Basically, it just stomped it. But anyway, those of you who do like Day of Reckoning, I am currently writing that episode anyway. So of course, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007's episode will come out first. But Day of Reckoning 1 will feature several characters that weren't in the final game, several attires that weren't in the final game, and we will take a full extensive look at the earliest preview build, which is around the same time as the Day of Reckoning 2 preview build, so it's like one of the first times it was shown off in private. Lastly, let's talk about SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. This is one of the most anticipated titles for a Definitive Edition. A few weeks ago on Patreon, I showed some of the stuff that is in the earliest PS2 build that was a preview build from a UK magazine outlet. We are going to be going into a deep dive of that, similar to the SmackDown vs. Raw and SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 videos, where we look at extra entrances, cut moves, changed entrances, different attires, and all kinds of things, but not only for the PS2. We're then going to compare the differences to the Xbox 360, as while the content is similar, it's not one-to-one. Attires are different on both systems, almost as if they didn't know which one they were going to go with, and then completely changed course in final release anyway. So yeah, lots of SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 to dig into. I was asked by loads of you to please not break the order, as we've got back into order since SmackDown vs. Raw. So yeah, don't worry, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007's rebuilding episode will come before 2008's. But 2008, there's a few video features that I want to do exclusively for Patreons that will end up in the rebuilding episode for everyone. But just initially, just to show you guys what is bizarrely different. Okay, so just to recap so I don't get crazy messages of what's up right now. SmackDown vs. Raw version 1, the Divas edition, the last chance to get SmackDown Shut Your Mouth version 1, last chance to get SmackDown Here Comes the Pain Definitive Edition version 10.5, and yes, we will have a new update for SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 in a couple of weeks, and then a few weeks after that we will have the new attire update on top of that. And lastly, sorry it's taken so long to get a new video out, it's just a case of staying dry. Until next time guys, take care, stay safe, please hit that like button, please hit subscribe. If you can support me on Patreon, please do at patreon.com/ScottJay. I'm Scott J. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.